Hey crafty friends, this is Einat Kessler with Saturday Extravaganza. Thank you very much for joining me, and today I'm playing with my art journal, creating a set of pages that are going to coordinate one with the other in terms of pattern and colors. So we're going to create 4 pages and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So let's start by covering all 4 pages with gesso. You already know that covering a paper with gesso seals it and makes it possible for it to absorb everything that we put on it, because it will not get into the fibers of the paper. So this is all my 4 pages covered in gesso, and I can start now. I'm gonna work with gelatos today, all orange and yellow colors, and I'm gonna teach you some fun techniques to work with gelatos. And I'm just rubbing some of the gelatos on my craft sheets, and with a baby towel, a wet baby towel, I'm applying it to my paper, and this creates a very subtle light background. And I'm going to create the same effect on all 4 pages with this orange color. By the way, you have all the exact colors in the beginning of the video on the list of supplies. So I'm going to go on with a little lighter shade of orange and add that to my 4 pages. So each page is going to get the same colors, only in a different pattern and different order, and this way they will create a set that each page is going to coordinate with the other page and talk to it, so to speak. So yellow now, I'm going to add some yellow with the wet wipe, and just make sure to dry each page after you add another color with your heat tool, so they'll set it on the page. And you just keep on adding. This is a very light yellow that I'm going to add as well, and you just keep on adding those 4 colors of gelatos to your 4 pages until you're happy with the way they look. This is the initial background that we're going to have on our pages, and as you can see, I'm only doing one side of a spread. So I'm going to add a little bit more orange because they're a little too light for my taste. And I just want to blend the colors a bit more. So you just keep on working on your background until you're happy with the way it's blended and with the way the colors are on each page. And once you're happy with that, just dry everything with your heat gun. And now obviously I forgot to turn on my camera again, but what I did here, that I punched each page starting from the last one with a different border punch. So I'm going to show you on the first page, which is going to be the shorter one, the narrower one. What I'm doing is I'm just cutting part of the page out. Now since I can't cut a straight line, I had to draw it with a pencil and a ruler. And once I have a straight edge, I can go ahead and punch it with my border punch. So what we have is a gradual effect of borders. Each page has a different border, and then since they're all different sizes or different width, then you have an effect of all those borders showing, one a little bit longer than the other. So the first one is going to be the narrower one, and the last 4th page is going to be the bigger one. So I hope that was clear. So now we can work on each page individually, starting with the first one. And what I'm going to do basically is just creating backgrounds. I'm not going to add any writing or text or anything like that. Okay, so if you want to do that later, then you can go ahead and do that, but I just left it as backgrounds. And I'm going to stamp a little bit with some orange ink and some circles. I'm going to have a circle motif here on all 4 pages. And I basically just put a scrap paper under the first page, so I will not have problem with some of the color going over to the other page, and plus that stops me from being distracted by the other patterns. So this is a script stamp. And did you know that you can use gelatos like ink? You just apply them on the stamp and stamp. So this is a little bit hard to see because the yellow is very bright and very subtle, but I'm going to add another color that is a little bit darker and stamp it again with the same stamp. And then I'll have a very, very subtle background of script on my page. I'm going to go ahead with a large stamp of a flower. Don't know the name of this flower, but I like it. And I'm going to ink that with brown, dark brown permanent ink. And then I'm going to go over it with a black pen, or a brown pen, I should say. It's just to enhance some of the pattern of the stamp and to add a little bit more dimension. I'm not going to go over the entire stamp, just part of it. So it's just fun playing around on the journal, you know, on the art journal. And I'm going to go in with some distress inks, and this is a circle, a little circle that I'm creating with a finger dabber. Just some more pattern and texture to go with the circles that I already have on my page. And to finish this page, I'm just going to go over all the edges with some photo vintage distress ink, just to give it more definition. You know I like to do that. So our first page is done, and we can go ahead and do the second page. So basically this is the way we're going to do. We're going to create a background on background and leave it like that. So this is a stencil with circles again, and what I'm going to do is with the same dabber just go over and stencil a pattern with some distress ink. And the fun part is that it's not the ink is, I'm applying different pressure on different areas of my page, so the color changes and it has hues and shades to it. It's not very uniform, so I like that. Another stamp of a flower. I think this is a sunflower, again with a permanent dark brown ink. I'm gonna go ahead and stamp another flower. This is a sunflower, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna color the flower with gelatos, and I'm gonna show you how. It's really a fun technique. You just put some gelatos like before on your craft sheet and add a little bit of water to wet your brush, and you just dip your brush into the gelatos, and then you have paint. It's like acrylic paint, and you can play with the amount of water that you add to change the consistency, and therefore change how strong it is. The more water you add, the lighter color you get. So it's really fun. I'm going to turn it into a sunflower basically by adding color and coloring the petals and everything. And that's why I've used permanent ink to stamp the image, because if I were to do it with distress ink and go in now with my diluted gelatos with water, then the entire image would be smeared completely. Now I'm going to add a little bit more dark color with the distress ink. Did you know that if you wet your brush and you go on your ink pad, then you can load it with some distress ink and use it like color as well. Lots of fun techniques today, you guys. Working on the second flower now. Who thought that you could do so many things with just one gelato, right? Use it in so many different ways. Fun. That's really fun. I really like gelatos. I think they're very versatile, and the only reason I have to do this with a distress ink is because I don't have a darker gelatos and I need to get one. So make sure everything is dry and ink all the edges of the page just to make it nice and defined. Now for our third page, I'm just going to go ahead and add some, wet my finger with the wet wipe and just add a little bit of gelato color onto this background. Just keep on adding your finger. You can do it with water as well, but that would wet it more. Like here, I've added some water. And don't use the baby wipe directly on the page, because that will probably disrupt whatever pattern you did there before. It will smear everything. So you just need to use your fingers in your selected areas that you wanted to use. So I'm stamping some leaves here. After all, these are autumn colors and leaves are going to go very nicely here. So again, with dark brown permanent ink, and I'm going to color these as well in the same technique that I did before, using gelatos and a brush. You know what, not gelatos, I'm going to use just distress ink because I want a different color, and just use a small enough brush so you can color them easily. And I'm just adding a darker tone of orange to the leaves, and if you need to wet your brush, of course, do that. This way it will be easier to load your brush with the distress ink. And what I like about it, that if I've used acrylic paint, it would be too opaque and too strong, and I just want a light shade of color, and that's why I'm using the gelatos and the distress inks. They basically have the same effect. So I'm just going over the veins of the leaf with a darker orange. Look how pretty that is. Like that effect. And I'm just about done. Just the stalks as well. That's it. Make it, just heat set it. And again, I'm going to add a little bit of circles here as well with both shades of orange, just to add more dimension to the background. And defining the edges with some distress ink. You can use a blender if you want, if you don't want to stain your finger. I don't care. I like my fingers to get dirty when I'm art journaling. So the last page, again the same stencil, but this time I'm going to go horizontal and only do half of the page. And I'm using a blender here. And just find the way to continue the same pattern is just to go back to the last line of circles and match the position of the stencil to where it was. And this way, with the circles, it's very easy. And then you get one continued pattern. Now you might ask why I didn't do it vertically, because when you turn it vertically then the pattern changes, and I wanted it to go this way. This way it has straight lines of circles. So I'm gonna go and stamp another type of flower or pattern. This is part doily, part flower pattern. I think it's not exactly a familiar flower as far as I can tell. Again, permanent ink, and gonna go in with 3 stamps and go over it again with gelato paint in the same technique that I showed you. Just add a little bit water and then you have paint. So I'm gonna color all my circles with orange, and then the petals around, I'm also going to color them with another color. I'm going to add, first let's dry this. It's a good idea. Let's dry this so it won't smear with your hand or whatever. And this is a lighter shade of orange. I'm gonna do the petals around, and I am going over the stamp basically because it's not completely uniform pattern. So I can add color and then it will show 2 tones of color, the brown stamp on the bottom, and on top of it the color that I added with the brush. So that's a nice effect that I want to create on this page. And some yellow in the center, and dry everything with my heat tool and just inking the edges with some distress ink. And I think that what I'm gonna do, just take my pen. I have a dark brown pen, and I'm just gonna go and do a little tiny bit of doodling to add just that final touch. Of course it's not necessary, but I just feel like doing it. So, you know, art journaling is go with whatever you feel and whatever you feel like doing, and if you feel like doodling, then just go ahead and do that. So I'm adding just freehand circles here, different sizes on the bottom, and on the second page just gonna go around the edge, the border punch that has sort of 4 petal flowers, and I'm just gonna go over that with a pen and add the same pattern on the page. Just doodle, just freehand. And for my third page, again, I'm gonna just go around the circles and add more circles here and there on the page. And for my last page, just little tiny circles inside the big circles that I stenciled. And basically I'm done. So this has turned out to be a really nice, just gonna straighten them out a little bit. This has turned out to be a 4 set art journal pages. So you can add text to it, or You can add whatever you want, and they go together like one page, but basically they're 4 pages. So then isn't that cool, you guys? I really like this effect. Of course, you can create more than 4 pages if you want. So I really like this one. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for all your support. I really appreciate it. I hope you were inspired to create your own set of art journal pages. And I'll see you all next time in our next Saturday Extravaganza tutorial.